Hi, it's David from Life with Parkinson's. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you'll consider subscribing. For everybody else, thank you for coming back and watching another episode. I'm here again at my friend's place, Pine Mountain Railway, and I need to do some repairs on my gloves. I just wanted to give you a bit of an update on the homemade Parkinson's gloves. They are great. They have been helping me, but they do require constant care and attention. Just because, well, they're homemade. If you're thinking about making them at home, I'm all for it. For me, there's definitely been benefit, and I'll get to that shortly. But if you're not up to constantly, it's not every day. It's like, from time to time, a motor will burn out and it needs to be replaced. And I'm going to show you how I do that today. But if you want something that you're going to slip on and slip off and never have to worry about, then you might want to wait for the factory version where you can send it back if there's any problem. Here's one of the gloves that I made. This one is the one that's been running better. We made a left and a right, obviously, and the left hand has been problematic ever since we finished it, probably because I dropped one of the little computer boards too many times, and one or two of the times it was powered up. So it's been constantly chewing through motors. We're going to get that going today. But this right hand glove, I don't know if you can see too well on it. It popped a wire a couple days ago, so I'm going to fix that, and I'll probably replace the motor at the same time. So I'm going to show you today how I do that, and then I'm going to change the computer board on the left hand glove. Okay, here we go. I've never done shots like this, repair shots and stuff before, so I'm going to do my best to show you what I'm doing with the gloves. Every time I put this glove on, I always feel like Mighty Mouse a little bit. Here I am to save the day. Here's the little baggie of motors. We'll get one out of there. Now what these motors are actually meant for, which does add to the maintenance of the glove system, is they were meant to go in like a cell phone or a pager device. So when you set it on vibrate, it vibrates. So it's not meant to do, it's one of the weaknesses in the current system. It's not meant to do like 3,000 cycles an hour, although the majority of these motors are handling that no problem. So one thing to always remember is disconnect the power before you start working on it. I've done a lot of wiring work over my employment history. For 14 years, I worked at an overhead door company, which I owned part of, and that required a lot of wiring. So this is not foreign to me to do this, but with Parkinson's, it's definitely harder to do some of these fine motor skills. So I got to try and do them when I'm on. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm having a bit of dyskinesia. I find that trying to focus on these fine motor skills causes some of the dyskinesia on its own, which is kind of funny because for the most part, my dyskinesia has been fairly under control. That's the first thing I want to do, is get this motor ready. And we found that putting some of this modeling clay, they seem to stick really well to it. I just pop a little sticker piece off the back of the motor. Now hopefully you're able to see all this. I'm trying to make sure that you are. Kind of funny because everything is kind of backwards in the camera. So if I move something closer to me, it goes farther away from you guys. Okay, so stick that on a piece of modeling clay. That guy is ready to go. Now we're going to get I'll just put it to the side. Now we got to cut this connection, which is really tricky. I'm going to cut this piece of heat shrink off without taking any of my skin. So yeah, these movements are complicated to do, but I'm positive I can get the job done. I just need to be willing to shake, Shakespeare. Okay, I got that off. Unfortunately, my wire is just a touch shorter, which is a little annoying, but it was being grumpy. So now I need to find the other one and take it out from inside the glove without damaging anything else, which is fairly complicated. The thing I've found is that even though all this is a little complicated to do, the benefits have definitely outweighed the annoyance. Okay, now trim this off. Trim off the heat shrink. There we go. That wasn't so bad. And here we're just left with this little motor wire. Oh good, this one didn't end up any shorter. I can probably solder that piece back on. I'll just trim this wire a little bit. Okay. Now we're ready for soldering. And Trevor's got these awesome little tweezers. You put pressure on them and then they open up. And you let go and they close again. So this is definitely on my wish list for Christmas or any other day. Is a pair of tweezers like these, because boy oh boy does it make soldering easy. And soldering it's not complicated, but imagine trying to, I know some people when they try and concentrate on something, their tremors come on, and that's not me. When I try and concentrate on something, my dyskinesia comes on, so it's a little bit backwards. Okay, so here's our new motor. And I want to solder these two connections. Okay, but I need to put some heat shrink on there first. So yeah, I've got a little heat shrink kit now that my father-in-law picked me up at Lee Valley Hardware. And looks like this blue wire is perfect for this red one, because the red one's a little bit longer. Oh, I didn't put my heat shrink on. Whoever was yelling out there, David, put your heat shrink on! Put your heat shrink on! I appreciate that, because I heard you yelling at me from the future back in the past at my present. Try and figure that one out. Okay, so I've got my heat shrink on. I guess I gotta cut those in half. Maybe I will next time. Okay, and the red one goes to the blue wire. Now, if you're wondering, with motors, does it matter which wire they go to? Not really. I don't really think it's going to matter which way the motor spins. And that's all that these connections determine, is which way the little motor spins. And for something that's going 12,000 RPM, I don't think it's going to make a difference. As long as you get that vibration on this certain part of your finger, I think it's okay. Like I said, I'm not a wiring expert, but I've done a heck of a lot of wiring. And I've replaced a lot of motors on garage door systems. And for those ones, yeah, it matters which way the motor goes. But for something like this, I can't really see it making a difference. Okay, there we go. We got the pliers on there. Oh, and look at that. That connection is going to be so easy to solder now. And if you're wondering, do I really need to solder these connections? Yeah, these connections on their own aren't going to be good enough, because when you're moving around and you've got the wiggles, or you're putting your gloves on and off, yeah, they're going to come apart if you aren't careful. Okay, so all we're doing here is heating up the wires with the soldering gun. And once you see the wires starting to melt a little bit, that's when you want to come in with your solder. There we go. That one is together. The solder, that's all you're doing, is you're heating it up with your soldering gun, and once you see it gets to that right temperature, you'll see the strands of wire start to melt a little bit. And that's when you come in with your soldering iron, just to melt a little bit of the material on there, and it just flows wherever it's needed. Okay, so we get this other connection together. And I gotta admit, I'd never done any soldering before, so Trevor was gracious enough to solder all the connections for me, and then I did one or two of my own. And I'm like, hey, this is easy. We just never needed to when I was doing the garage door work, because all the connections were basically fixed, so nothing was moving around like you would in a pair of gloves. There we go. That'll be an easy connection to solder as well. Put that up. Let's heat that baby up. There we go. Okay, so those connections are good. And now we just need to get the heat shrink on it. Bend this over and slide the heat shrink over our fragile connection. And the heat shrink will provide some more stability also. Okay, let's do the other one. Oh, we should test if this motor works before we heat shrink the heat shrink. Okay, we'll plug our power back in. Yep, it works. Success. Again. I'm just going to grab the... Okay. I don't have an actual heat gun. That is on my list as well to get. So I'm going to use my wife's hairdryer. Don't tell her I took it for the weekend. Don't tell her. Okay, I gotta switch plugs. And we'll shrink these babies down. I really should have a heat gun, but... Okay, there we go. Okay, the next challenging part is, of course, feeding this wire back through to where it belongs without... Well, I should do the right finger. Without ripping them to bits. I'll grab the pliers, pull it through. Through you go. Back to the other side. Fit into the hole in the glove. There we go. And it's home. Let's see what we've got. Now that I've got this glove working again, what I've decided to do is to talk about some of the benefits now of what I've gotten from the gloves, and then I'll film that other repair and just put it out as a bonus episode. What I've found with the homemade Parkinson's gloves is that my brain is very receptive to the vibration pattern. Like, it wants it. So I've gotten into the unavoidable habit of putting this glove on around at 7 at night, because that's just what I originally did for that weekend that I was here. It begs for it. Like, if I don't give it the glove at around 7 p.m., it gets very disappointed and very upset. Also, I found that when I was here and we made the gloves, I would wake up around 5 a.m. just because it was getting light outside. So I would just start putting the gloves on then. But since I've been home, my body wakes me up at 5 and says, glove me. Love me with a G. So I notice the benefits the most in the morning when I'm waking up, because most of us wake up and we're off, right? Our body's slept, it's burned up our medication. Well, I don't know if that's true for everybody, but what I found for myself is that I'll wake up and I'm traditionally off in the morning. Like, I've slept the night, my body's burned up my medication, so, and that's fine. So I slip these on, and lately I've been able to go back to sleep for about an hour or so. And then I'll wake up, say, 6:15, and I'll use the red light. But what I found laying there at 5 is, after a little while, say 10 to 15 minutes, I'll feel my bowels move. I'll be like, wow, what's going on down there? A little while later, I'll have a little fart or something, right? I'm like, wow. And then it's like, I gotta go pee. And in the morning is usually when I get my dystonia. I call it leg lock in my right leg. Like I can't walk because my calf muscle is locked up solid. But this little guy, and this is just one glove. Like pretty much since I've been home, the other one's been broken, and now I've got some time to do the repairs. But just with one glove, I'm getting some benefit. Like it hasn't been to the point where I can reduce any medication, but I've been terrified since they've discontinued my Movapla rescue medication, and I still have some left. But I found that the glove, coupled with the red light therapy, has extended my off time, and I've been able to reduce some of my Movapla shots. Not completely eliminate it, like I still need it when I'm driving. So it's doing some background stuff. It's doing stuff in the background, like activating functions that have normally been dormant unless I have medication. So like I'm having a bowel movement almost every day rather than every like second day or third day, which was happening before. It's doing some background stuff all on its own, and that I find amazing for like something that is just basically an imitation of the gloves that they made at Stanford University. And it's just one. I'm only operating at 50%. Even the motor placement isn't great on my fingers. We're going to try and find a way to improve that and to get it onto that fleshy part there. So I've only been operating at 50%. And the motor placement isn't great. So maybe I'm only operating at like 30 or 40% of what's possible. And I'm still getting a little bit of benefit. Nothing that I need to like cry woof or say the sky is falling, the sky is falling. But I've gotten some benefit out of it, and for that I'm thankful. Thank you for taking this journey together. Thank you for watching and supporting this channel. Thank you and have a good day. Goodbye.